Alrighty, welcome to the UFC Fight Night 106 Fortaleza post-fight show. My name is Nick Baldwin of BloodyElbow.com and joined by MMAfighting.com's Jed Meshew. Jed, how's it going?
It is excellent, man. Really fun night of fight. So I wanted to get on and chat some fisticuffs with you.
Yes, it was a fun night of fights, and it didn't finish out with everyone so disappointed, so just really down and low and sad. And I mean, it was a great night of fights, top to bottom, no complaints. I mean, I said it all week that I was looking forward to this card. I knew because some of these matchups, and we said this as well. And before the battle, I believe last night. Yeah, that was last night. Jeez. That some of these fights were super close, so I was a little concerned that we would see a lot of decisions, a lot of close, somewhat lackluster fights, but it turned out to be a fun night of fights. So looking forward to recapping this card with you. We'll start out at the top. Of course, Kelvin Gastelum, biggest favorite on the card, gets the knockout win in the first round against former champion Vitor the Phenom Belfort. No surprise here. I don't even really know what to ask. I guess like how from we all said Gastelum was going to win and Gastelum would win inside the distance. But are you any more impressed with Gastelum than you expected you would be? Did he do anything that maybe you didn't see coming, or was this all 100% predictable in your eyes?
Nope, not anymore. Less impressed with Gastelum. I've always been super impressed with him since he came off the Ultimate Fighter. I think I don't think he can claim that he's the best welterweight on the planet, but I think that if we were back in ancient times or transported to Game of Thrones and I had to pick one welterweight on the planet to fight for my life in a trial by combat, I might pick Kelvin Gastelum to be that guy. I think he's a fantastic welterweight. And by virtue of being one of the very best welterweights in the world, he is going to be an extremely good middleweight and better than a majority of that division. It also helps that he comes from one of the three best divisions in MMA. So when he's moving to a much weaker division, it means he can go further. I think this is probably roughly his ceiling as a middleweight, which is why I'm not super keen on seeing him continuing here. Because what's he gonna do? He gonna beat Yoel Romero? He not beating Luke Rockhold. He's a tiny man. He's 5'9", and he still looked much smaller than Vitor. And Vitor was never an enormous middleweight either. So I would like to see him drop back down to welterweight. I know after the fight he made what's a pretty smart call out and calling it Anderson Silva, because that's a fight he can totally win. And it's a huge name, but I would
Do you
be
want to see that?
God no.
No.
No, I don't want to see him fight at middleweight because he's not a middleweight. He's a welterweight who can't fix his diet. And I don't want to see Anderson fight like real fighters anymore because Anderson doesn't need to fight real fighters anymore. Book Anderson Silva versus Vitor. If both of them can insist on continuing to fight, they can rematch each other. That's fine.
Yeah, that's the fight, honestly. I mean, just diving into what's next for Vitor Belfort. If Belfort retires, I would bow down to him. I mean, it's probably the fight to or the thing to do for Belfort at this point. But if he's going to insist on fighting on that Rio card and
Yeah.
having at least one more fight, you do the Anderson Silva fight. I mean, there's really isn't that many other options. It's a fight that Anderson can win, and it's ultimately a fight that Belfort could probably win. I mean, I don't know who you favor. Maybe Anderson, I guess, but it's a matchup that makes sense. Silva, according to most people, lost his last fight versus Brunson. Belfort, well, he's lost a few in a row now. That's the fight to make. As far as Gaslam goes,
Hold up.
because
I've got a bit of
yes,
breaking news for you.
you
Performance
do
of the night bonuses coming out of UFC Fortaleza. 4 performance bonuses, no fight of the night, which is a
a
bit
little,
strange.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean, there were a lot of great performances. I don't have a problem with giving a lot of performances, but
Soto, yeah, yeah,
there were a lot of really good fights too. Frankly, I thought the Yaya Soto fight was going to get fight of the night
yes,
after it was all said and
yep.
done. Because it was high drama, just a good ass fight. But so our performance bonuses: Kelvin Gastelum, Edson Barbosa, Michel Prazeras, and Borrachinha. All of them, all 4 of them are getting the extra bonus money for a lot of really good performances there. So,
Yeah, I'm
good.
happy with that. Before we won't, dive into those particular fights. We'll get to them probably later. But I feel like those prelim guys, they deserve it more than say Shogun, for example. So I'm happy that they,
Oh
didn't
yeah,
go the top four main card fights like they often do. So that's good to hear. Especially, giving them to guys who are probably on like 10-10 contract. So that's nice to see. Anyways, what's next for Gastelum? You already answered it, and it's down to welterweight. I know we've had this debate about I wouldn't mind him at middleweight. You don't want to. We're not going to have that again for 20 minutes because it's just repetitive. But I don't really care where he fights. I don't like weight cutting, more than anybody. Completely anti-weight cutting, as everyone should be. But so if Gastelum wants to stay at middleweight, I'm down with that. The only issue though is that I don't see Gastelum hitting the top. I think Gastelum can be at the very top at welterweight, but I don't think he can be at the very top at middleweight. He's 5'9", and to be at the very top at middleweight, as you said, you need to get through the Yoel Romero's, the Luke Rockholds, the Jacques, even Musasi. That's a tough one. So I don't know. It's really tough to say where Gaston goes from here because he wants to be a welterweight, but he just has to get his diet in order. I really believe he can make welterweight. He's made it before. He's always been a bigger welterweight in a way.
he's just wide.
He's
He's just
very
wide.
wide. He's very thick, but he's not tall for the division. And ultimately, he should be able to make the weight. Considering some guys probably cut more than him, as long as he's not eating burgers and fries and greasy food and everything unhealthy out of camp. Well, that's what he has to do, and he should be okay. So I wouldn't mind seeing him at welterweight, but at the same time, as I said, if he chooses to stay at middleweight, I'm down with that as well. And him calling out Anderson Silva makes me believe we'll probably see him back at middleweight. I think he looks at his last couple of performances, say, "Hey, I'm feeling better not having to get those extra 15 pounds. Back-to-back knockout wins. Why not? Especially if I can get a winnable fight against Anderson Silva. How can you blame the guy?" But
I think that's it. I think he's going to go back to welterweight because I think he knows that his true title future exists at welterweight. But he can get a big name fight against Anderson Silva that is extremely winnable, and he can also eat all the, I don't know what he eats, tacos or uh, burgers
I
or
saw a
I
picture
don't
of
know.
him with burgers a little while back. So I didn't check out
Um,
his fridge though when I was at his house. So probably should have. But
then I mean, yeah, if he wants whatever, then he'll do that. I'm gonna put my matchmaker hat on or little
all right.
little clairvoyant Jed action here. Here's what's gonna happen. His next fight is gonna be at welterweight. It's gonna be against the winner of. Okay, so well, I gotta pause here for a second.
Don't
So
say Damien Maya and Jorge Masvidal.
upcoming we've got Damian Maia versus old George Masvidal, um, which is the worst fight ever, and I hate it, and I want them to undo that booking. I'm still hoping something happens and it falls through. But I think Masvidal is gonna lose that fight. I think Maia's gonna win, and then Maia's gonna get to challenge Tyron Woodley. You're gonna get Thompson versus Masvidal at that point,
Yes.
then. And then, so I think you can look at Gastelum versus either Robbie Lawler or the winner of Thompson Masvidal when that comes in down the line at welterweight, depending on how long he wants to wait. Or, Donald Cerrone's always up for a scrap. Like, any of these are good fights. Welterweight's a good enough division. He can fight anybody. At middleweight, there's just nobody. Like, who are they matching up with him with at middleweight right now? Like, they're not going to match him up with Anderson Silva. They're just not going to do that.
No.
But
Honestly,
Brunson's coming off a loss. That's not really a
the
thing.
the probably the best option is someone like Robert Whitaker who's booked, and
Yeah,
then
so, Bobby
but
Knuckles is booked.
yeah, and then after that, I mean Chris Weidman, but he's has a fight in a month. It's so tough. I just don't see how he goes up from here. He's number 10. He'll be number 9 on Monday morning, but after that, you got Derek Brunson right above him, who's coming off the loss, or yeah,
He could
coming off the loss.
he could feasibly beat Derek Brunson. I don't know that he would. He would beat Anderson Silva. He could beat Robert Whitaker. I don't know that he would either. Close fight because
I,
I mean Bobby Knuckles is another welterweight who moved on up.
yeah,
But then after that, like he's not beating Musasi, Weidman, Souza, Rockhold, or Romero for at least a couple of years. In a couple of years, when Souza's 40 and he's still in his prime, like athletic prime, yeah, maybe he's beating them then. But like he's just middleweight's not his division. So I think the next time we see him, it'll be at welterweight, and there's any like the whole division's great, and because of his weight issues, you can like functionally pair him up against anybody. Like it doesn't have to be somebody coming off a win. You can pair him up with any ranked fighter at welterweight and be like, yeah, well, I know you're this awesome guy who's kicking the shit out of people, but until you get your weight, you can fight Kamaru Usman at 11, and we'll make sure you can get your shit together.
Yeah, I'm a little distracted because I have my sister walking into my room who didn't realize she was on video camera, and now she's a little embarrassed. So I kind of tuned you out for a moment, but I'll say I agree. I'll nod
We
my head
Gucci.
and say I agree.
We Gucci. Let's move on though. We've talked far too much about one of the least interesting things that happened on this card.
I mean it was up there, but I
It's
guess
not,
it
and
was
nobody gives a
also
shit.
something we saw
It
coming.
was
Now
wildly
something
predictable, and nobody cares about it. And it had the sad ending because it's just not that fun. It's not that fun for an old and aging veteran to get put out to pasture. But what is fun is when an aging veteran gives us one last show, co-main event. I'll admit to being a little worried coming into this, but Shogun Hua turned back. I mean, I won't say turn back the clock, but put a good performance together and stops Jean Vellante in the third round. What did you think of this fight, Nick?
I think Shogun definitely took a couple minutes to warm up. He looked really lethargic in the first opening minute, so I was a little worried. I was like, okay, this might be Jean Volante's time to shine. He might just land and put Shogun down, and Shogun's really done. But yeah, I mean, once he got his rhythm going, his boxing improved over the course of the first round, essentially, and he was really tight by the end of the fight. He was throwing jabs well, putting combinations together. That ending sequence was just fantastic, hurting Jean Vellante, landing the body shots, and then of course the punches to the melon, and ultimately, it was an impressive performance. I didn't see who are getting the finish. I know Jean Vellante has awful defense and his cardio is bad and his fight IQ is questionable and all of these things, but I just didn't see who landing those fight-ending shots. But he did. I mean, it really could have gone either way because both guys don't really have much of a chin, but it was who got the job done. He was the more technical fighter. We all knew that. It just came down to does his chin hold up? Does he have the gas left in the tank? He does, but I don't know for how much longer. But also, he's number 6 at light heavyweight, and I don't want to see him against a top 5 light heavyweight. Never mind, maybe even a top 10 guy. So I really have no idea where he goes from here.
Oh, don't worry, because I do. I'm playing. I'm matchmaker Jed today. I've got it all figured out here. Where Shogun Hua goes, frankly, if you wanted to match up like Shogun versus Vitor, I wouldn't hate that, honestly. Um, but I don't think that's a thing they're going to go for or try and do. But I also think that everybody kind of knows. I think everybody knows where the ground is with Shogun, and the fact that he may be number 6 at light heavyweight isn't really indicative
No,
of where he is. I think
not at all.
everybody,
No.
including Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby, I think they're aware of this, and to an extent Shogun as well. He's making some comments at the post fight right now. That my colleague Guillermo Cruz, who is down at Fortaleza, covering this for MMAfighting.com, the award-winning MMAfighting.com. Um,
Oh,
he's
man.
he's saying stuff that Anthony Johnson is the most dangerous guy in the division, and the winner of Gustafsson Teixeira should get the next title shot after that. I think we all know that the winner of Gustafsson Teixeira would get the next title shot, but for Jonathan Jones, who will be returning somewhere near that timeline. But I think Shogun will fight the loser of Gustafsson Teixeira, and by that I mean he will fight Glover Teixeira. And I don't hate that fight. I think that's a totally reasonable fight. That it's not some absurdly shit booking, so I'm fine with it.
That's actually that's one I didn't think of. I'm not that I think it's all right. I think the one that really stands out to most guys is Jimmy Manuwa, but I just don't want to see that fight. It was
Saying that
supposed to
doesn't
happen in
stand out to me because
2014.
Mano was going to beat him.
Say that again.
That's the thing. Like that doesn't stand out to me because I know Manoa was going to beat him. I mean, I
Well,
guess if you're
exactly,
trying to
but
push Manoa towards a title fight, also Manoa first has to get past Corey Anderson. Not
well,
not
yeah,
a
exactly.
yeah. That fight's next weekend, isn't it?
It is, yes, and that's a tough one, but
Um,
we'll talk about
let's
on
say yeah,
before the battle. But
that's not a guaranteed victory anyway. So, but
no,
I don't want to see him fight. I don't want to see him fight a young guy at light heavyweight because we don't need
yeah,
that, and everybody knows it needs that. Give him Rashad Evans or Glover Teixeira. I'm fine with.
wasn't the Evan Shogun fight supposed to happen? I feel like that was supposed to
That was
happen not
supposed to
too
happen a
long
while
ago.
back. I thought. But like any of these things are fine. I just book him like you would Bellator. That's what you should do with him, and that's fine.
Yeah, I would agree. Honestly, it's kind of weird because like I'm more okay with him fighting the loser of Gus Glover, even though I would probably pick both Gus and Glover over Manoa at this point, maybe. But I mean, I still feel like Manoa honestly has the better chance of beating Shogun. It's weird how MMA math works that way, but I feel like because Glover and Gus are both a bit older, maybe don't they're just not the fresher guys. I feel like that would be possibly the fight to make. But I guess if they want to give Shogun another fairly mid-level guy, kind of like John Vellante, I don't know. I mean, it worked out this time, but would it work out next time? I don't know. Is that really the fight to make? Probably not. I mean, yeah, if they wanted, if they like said right now, all right, Shogun, you're gonna fight the winner of Patrick Cummins and John Blachowicz, I have no interest in that one, whatsoever. So I think you got to give him a notable name, but not a guy who is
Jesus,
going to murk him.
I just realized that Jean Vellante is actually ranked, and that is what the hell.
Well, it's light heavyweight.
I know, but like his record at light heavyweight isn't even good.
It's 5-5 in the
Yeah,
UFC, I
he's
believe.
literally gone 1-1, lost one. His one win is the Corey Anderson win. Like that's the
Yes,
one win to really. I mean, he
and
knocked out
and, and
Euclid
that's
Perosh,
also
who's 800 years old. Like,
yes.
holy, I can't believe that he is ranked. Jesus, light heavyweight is a wasteland.
Yes, that is something I can absolutely agree with.
That's my
Shogun,
one. That's my one issue when people say John Jones is the best fighter of all time. Technically and skill wise, he may well be. Like he's an absurd clinch fighter and he's very good everywhere. But like, man, he lords over a barren wasteland of talent. So
well,
for
that's the
all the
thing. You
shit you
you
give
have
Demetrius Johnson, like everybody gives Demetrius Johnson, saying like, "Oh, flyweight shit." Like Joseph Benavidez is not shit. Joseph Benavidez is an incredibly good fighter, and DJ hustled the shit out of him the second time.
yeah,
It's just like John Jones is just a man among infants.
yeah. I mean, you look at the gaps between every champion and in John Vallante's case, every number 12 guy. It's big in every division, but it's probably the biggest in either light heavyweight or heavyweight.
Dude, no,
Um,
looking at it, I genuinely think it's a bigger gap in light heavyweight, which is insane.
Maybe. Well, yeah, no, I don't know, because Stipe, as crazy as this sounds, I don't even know why
Stipe
we're
did, in
talking.
fact, lose to the number 10 heavyweight range right now.
Yes, that is true, but Stipe, well, I mean, this is an
Look,
interesting question, I
he'd kick
guess.
the dick off Stefan Struve right now, but I'm
Right,
just
of
like,
course. Would Stipe be a bigger favorite against Daniel Omielanchuk, number 12 at heavyweight, or would Cormier be a bigger favorite over Jean Vellante, number 12 at light heavyweight? I mean, they'd both be,
Cormier
minus
probably would be
5,000, but
Cormier would probably be a bigger favorite just because it's heavyweight and
I guess maybe.
there's an implicit danger at heavyweight that gets factored in stuff like that. But yeah,
I feel like this is a conversation we should not be having. Who the bigger favorite between Cormier versus Jean Vellante and Stipe versus Daniel Omielanchuk
yeah, but it
would be?
kind of is a
But
conversation you have to have when we're talking
I
about
guess,
like this card in general, just because we're talking about who Shogun Rua fights, and the fact of the matter is, like, yeah, Shogun Rua is the number 6 light heavyweight in the world, basically based off past accomplishment and a specious win thrown in there. But like, it's just he's that because it's a thin ass division. So like, and because he's so highly ranked, it's hard to think like, okay, let's match him up with Jared Cannonier or something like that. but that's kind of the level of fighter you want him to be fighting at this stage in his career. So it's a fucking real weird thing. I mean, Little Nog is ranked 11. Good lord, let's stop talking about light heavyweight. What was the next fight down? Oh, this was the good fight.
Yes, this was the good fight. Edson Barboza is a freaking killer. But although he scored a knockout of the year candidate, and it feels like, every card we're talking about knockout of the year candidates thus far this year, but he didn't look all that great before this knockout. So this makes it very interesting. Beneil Dariush was giving him a legit fight. He was pressuring him. Edson Barboza looked a little lost. He couldn't find it. Well, he just it was hard to keep Dariush off of him and get out of Dariush's range. Essentially, it was hard for him to get into kicking range where he's best, and he was landing a lot of shots, but he didn't establish his jab as well as he usually does. Ultimately, he just didn't. He looked a little off. He looked a little lost, but it doesn't matter when you land that sort of that flying knee. Just insane. Beneil Dariush goes in for the takedown. Barboza times it perfectly. Beneil Dariush goes out like a light. Absolutely spectacular. I believe this was probably the first time Dariush had been knocked out. Maybe he had two. No, he was knocked out by Ramsey Nijem way back
Correct.
when.
Correct.
Yeah. So, well, but I mean, whatever. You can barely count that. But yeah, first. One of the first very devastating losses of Dariush's career. Sort of interesting to see where he goes from here. But Barboza, you said it on Before the Battle last night that you really see Barboza having an insane next couple of years. You called him a title challenger in 2018, and so far so good.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit I was a little worried that I was just had misread the situation. But then he came back and did the damn thing. And the thing is, like, this is one of the tougher matchups for him at lightweight. We talked about it before, and before the battle, with Mike Biggie Rhodes actually picking Dariush for a lot of reasons. Like, a lot of people felt Dariush had a chance, and that style matchup favored him historically. Like, he's an excellent pressure fighter, and Barbosa kind of has an issue with people who are really going to just get in his face about it. And for the better part of 2 rounds, we saw that. It's a funny thing. I am going to temper now after watching this fight, and watching how much success Dariush had just kind of getting in Barbosa's grill. I am going to temper my sort of high expectations for Barbosa. I still think, especially with the proper matchmaking, he gets himself into title contention early next year. And I still sort of in my head think that he might be, he's one of the absolute very top tier best lightweights on the planet. But there's a pretty clear way to beat him now. And frankly, it's just do what Neil Dariush did. To beat Edson Barbosa, you have to be really fucking tough, and you have to just not give a shit. Like that. That's it.
And that defines who Tony Ferguson is.
Exactly. Like that's sort of where I was going with this is like, I think Khabib could offer him a very different set of problems, uh, because Khabib is also a pretty tough dude and will come forward and will present a whole different plethora of dangers. But realistically, Beneil Dariush, he was doing a lot of good things. I don't want to take anything away from him technically, but mostly what he was doing is he was coming in, and Edson Barbosa was doing uh, a lot of waiting, and Brian Stan was noticing him on broadcast commentary that Edson never was getting a chance to set his feet, and it's sort of true and it's sort of not. He was never getting a chance to set his feet and kind of get set into a full level of like comfortability, and where he would then throw. Because when he did, that's when you saw him uncork the kicks. But he just isn't happy enough to just to fill empty spaces. Edson Barbosa really wants to have an opening that he's attacking or something like that. Whereas Beneil Dariush will just kind of go, okay, I haven't thrown a punch in 10 seconds. I'm just going to throw a punch. And so he's just coming forward, and it's just making Edson Barbosa circle out and circle away and move. And so it did kind of get into a place where Edson's not comfortable doing anything, and it meant that Barbosa was winning was losing the rounds strictly on volume. And I think that's a game plan that has been proven successful in the past and was clearly having a lot of success here. And Barbosa wasn't able to disincentivize him. He hit Dariush with some good shots before the kill shot at the end, and Dariush just said, "I don't give a shit," and kept going forward. And that's what Tony Ferguson did essentially. If you remember that fight, Barbosa won the first round. I thought pretty cleanly, but Tony Ferguson just kept coming through, and then that was the ball game because he just kind of broke. Barbosa just kind of broke. So I do like that he ended up, getting around that, but I don't. If they fought tomorrow, I still have to pick Tony Ferguson in that
Yeah,
fight,
yeah,
despite the
yeah.
fact that Edson would probably win the first 8 minutes of it
Maybe.
in a pretty handy fashion. So I still have high expectations and hopes for him. I think he has become a sensational defensive wrestler lately. I think he's developed a good pocket boxing game. He deals with getting hit better, and when he is allowed to operate in his preferred range, he is the best in the business, pure and simple. But Dariush's willingness to just throw caution to the wind and that sheer fact giving him some problem make me think that okay, maybe this guy isn't going to hold the title, but I do actually think he'd kick the crap out of Conor McGregor. So there's
Barboza
that.
or
Yeah,
Dariush?
Barbosa.
Yeah.
I think Barbosa would beat up Conor McGregor in a pretty vicious fashion. But uh, what do you see that's next for both guys here? I guess.
Well, we already mentioned on Twitter, and you sort of gave out one. Well, we both gave out one fight, and then I went back on what I said and said that was a stupid opinion. But it's kind of weird just because. So Eddie Alvarez, number 3, and Dustin Poirier, number 10, are booked to fight. Great fight, by the way. It's one I've been calling for actually years. So happy that one's happening. But it seems like Edson Barboza could probably fight the winner of that. That fight is happening mid-April, so not too far from now. Barboza, he took a little damage in there, so I mean, a month or a few months off wouldn't be the worst thing for the Brazilian. So that's a very good option. That's probably what goes down. The one I first mentioned was Michael Chiesa, which I mean, Barboza wins, but it's an interesting stylistic matchup just because Chiesa has a grappling game, and if he does get inside, I mean that's a tough fight. But again, Barboza probably ends up the victor in that one. It kind of depends on what happens with Conor McGregor, though. If Conor McGregor, refuses to fight, which I don't really see happening, but we're not going to see Conor McGregor back till the summer, anyways. So, I mean, it also depends with Khabib and Ferguson completely, because if Khabib, doesn't want to fight for a couple months to recover from what happened just last week, he could have to sit out for the summer because of Ramadan. Then we might not see Khabib fight till the fall as well. And then you have Tony Ferguson, who might also have to wait if he wants to fight Khabib, but he's not so keen on that. So you might end up seeing Tony Ferguson versus Edson Barboza for the interim title. I mean, it's really I think it really depends on what Khabib is doing. Honestly, I think it all comes down to Khabib. If Khabib is ready to go before Ramadan and before he has to sit out, assuming he will sit out for Ramadan, then you do, of course, Khabib Ferguson, obviously. But if Khabib does sit out till the fall, Barboza Ferguson too might not be the worst option.
If they make Barbosa Ferguson too, I'm totally down for that. I mean, you've heard my feelings in general. I do think, yeah, it's a pretty easy for me just book him versus the winner of Alvarez Poirier, and that person in a normal world would then get a title shot. Obviously, a lot to clear up at the top of lightweight, which is part of why the McGregor saga is just ridiculous and kind of tedious. But it's lightweight. If you just mix any two ranked lightweights or just any two lightweights, you're probably going to get something that's awesome to watch. So I'm down for it.
Yes. Yep.
But and on that note, like, yeah, okay, if he fought Michael Chiesa, I think that's a good fight. I don't particularly see why he would want to accept a fight with Michael Chiesa, other than the fact that he would kind of be like strong armed into it. But I also think that he would just whip the ever loving shit out of Michael Chiesa. Michael Chiesa is one of those guys that he's super scrappy and uh, and he's so good at one thing, at getting the back and choking you out. He choked out Beneil Dariush, which is an incredible
Yeah.
accomplishment. Um, you know, that okay, maybe he makes some magic happen, but most likely he gets chewed up on the feet, gets his leg kicked the whole shitload, and tries fruitlessly to take down Edson Barbosa until he gets knocked out or catches a knee like Benil Dariush did. Um, which I'll let other just to circle back for one quick second, I'll let other better people than me talk about this. But the knee he hit on Benil Dariush was spectacular in part because he timed it off that jab. He got hit. If you go watch the video, he gets hit with the jab, and as soon as he feels the jab in his face, he goes into the knee because all night long, Dariush had been jabbing to set up and either ducking his head to avoid a shot or taking, I think he took one entry off that for a single leg. So as soon as he ducked it, as soon as he felt the jab, Barbosa knew Dariush's head was going to be right there. He jumps up, hits the double knee, beautiful. Um, but yeah, so I'm fine with anything you said for Barbosa. You give him any of those guys, that's cool. I just think he's like at the bottom of this pile of contenders we have. He's at the bottom of the UFC's priority list, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not a priority. Definitely, well, Conor McGregor, you can call him a priority of the UFC.
Yeah, Conor
Could be,
McGregor, Khabib, Tony are priorities. The winner of Alvarez Poirier is going to have a priority over him.
yeah,
You know what? Actually, shit. Here's a fight that we didn't even discuss. Oh, never mind. We can't do it. I was going to say Rafael dos Anjos, but he's
yeah.
moving up to welterweight, so that's fine.
Oh, he is, but also he's lost two straight, and it doesn't
I
really
don't,
make sense.
that'd be. I don't care about that. That'd be a great fight. But if you wanted to rock the other fight that makes on the other end of this, whatever happens with Barbosa, I don't think he's close to getting a title shot. It's cute that he wants one, but unless he just gets an interim title shot against Ferguson again, he's still 2 wins away from fighting for the real belt. But on the other end,
Well, I mean, technically, interim titles are supposed to determine the next title challenger. But yeah, obviously, WME can work around that.
he's a way off. But on the other end, I actually have a matchup for Dariush that I quite like, and I don't know what you think about this, but at this point, I mean Dariush probably needs some time off. That was a vicious knee, but I'd be pretty happy for them to run back Dariush Michael Johnson since that first fight was so close and contentious, and both of them are coming off pretty bad losses.
It makes sense. It makes sense. I don't know if that would be my number one pick, just because I wasn't, thrilled with their first fight, and I mean, something rankings wise, sure, and the fact that they fought and was close in a
That Michael
controversial
Johnson probably
decision,
won the fight.
yeah, that of course helps, the case for a rematch. I mean, I'm not totally down, but I would watch it, of course. Just looking at the rankings, I mean, the loser of Alvarez Poirier honestly wouldn't be that bad of an
Yeah,
option.
I'm definitely fine with that
Um,
fight too.
Maybe you go as low as Francisco Trinaldo, but um, yeah, honestly, Michael Johnson
Is
might
Ronaldo
be
even going to have a ranking come Monday?
uh probably, because I don't think they move him down 4 spots, but still
You're
have
probably
guys
you're
like
probably right.
Quinton Brooks. I think Brooks goes off, and
I think the Levi Quinto, but Brooks would get off. But yeah, you're probably right. I mean, look,
yeah.
if they did Ronaldo, I wouldn't have an issue with that. But
Yeah, Johnson might be the best option, honestly, which is kind of, I don't know. I don't love it, but it might be the best option.
I actually really like that fight in general because I did think Michael Johnson won the first one. They're so closely and they're so closely ranked, and I saw a lot from Dariush tonight. Yeah, he got deaded at the end, but like that can happen to absolutely anybody in the world when they're fighting Edson Barbosa. And he was employing a lot of really good tactics tonight. He looked sensational until the 1 second that he got finished.
That he didn't,
So
yeah. It's
I
very
love that fight.
interesting. It's kind of cool, interesting, and weird with the whole Johnson Barboza Dariush. Johnson beat Barboza, yet Barboza has been on a roll. Has been up and down, thus Barboza being ranked above him. And then Dariush barely got past Johnson, yet he's ranked 3 spots below him. It's kind of weird, but I guess MMA rankings, UFC rankings, they work like that. Barboza, real quick, going back to Barboza. Barboza versus Nate Diaz is a fight I would love, but there's no way Diaz takes that fight.
Oh yeah, no. I just don't factor Nate Diaz into any matchmaking because
Any legit matchmaking.
well, just between top 10 guys. He's not fighting anybody in here because he doesn't need to or want to or give a shit. Nate Diaz is going to fight Conor McGregor or
That's it,
that's like
basically.
it pretty much. Like I don't know who else he would give enough of a shit to fight. Which doesn't make any sense to me because I mean, for a lot of reasons, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but and this is a little bit of speculation on my part too. I'm not going to go ahead and say it outright, but my guess is Nate Diaz, despite the fact that he doesn't have a title, is at this point capable of negotiating with the UFC a contract for pay-per-view points, like just regardless
I
of
would
how.
agree with that. I would agree with that.
Because I mean, I
There are casual fans that know who Nate Diaz is simply because he beat Conor McGregor. That's a fact.
he already had a fan base, and then he blew up. Like he is a legitimate
Star.
person that matters.
Yes.
And he certainly is a bigger draw. Like if you just ran Nate Diaz versus any other person, that pay-per-view is going to do equally as well as almost any champion that they run out. Like just in general, I bet Nate Diaz draws better than Tyron Woodley. We
You're
haven't
probably
gotten
right. You're probably
yeah.
right.
So considering that Nate Diaz, in fact, I don't know if he does, but he could certainly demand and essentially get, because WME IMG is so transparently in this for cash at this point. Like they have to get these numbers to meet their quotas. So so these markers don't kick and start charging them a shitload of money because they took a huge investment buyout for this. So they're just, that's why George St. Pierre is fighting for the middleweight belt despite all reason and logic. So considering they know that, like Nate Diaz knows this, can go and negotiate. Yes, I'll fight somebody. I get pay-per-view points. I'll headline a pay-per-view. I don't give a shit. I know in general he does want to be the B side. Like that's sort of the Diaz's. Both Diaz brothers at this point are looking for big fights where, despite the fact that they're amongst the biggest draws in MMA, they want to be the B side. And get that pay. They want to fight Conor McGregor or George St. Pierre, those type of fights. But they are in themselves draws. And if you put Nate Diaz headlining a pay-per-view against, well, who here? Fuck, if you put him headlining against Edson Barbosa, like that probably does 350 to 400,000 buys, and he gets points on that. He'll make millions of dollars, and that'll be good for him. But I just don't see him fighting almost anybody, so I don't really factor him into the lightweight rankings.
Yeah, you can't really do that. And of course, the same goes for Nick Diaz even more. So let's talk about Ray Borg getting the nod over Jesse Formiga. First off, how did you score the fight? The first two rounds were super close. I gave the first to Formiga, the second to Borg, and then the third was, well, it was obviously Borg's. If you had it the other way, you're wrong. But the first two could have gone either way.
I scored exactly the same as you. And I think the first two rounds are super close. If you wanted to give both of them to Formiga, you could.
I don't think that's a bad scorecard at all for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I wouldn't agree, but I don't think it's fine. I think Joe Soto won, or not Joe Soto. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Ray Borg, yes.
Yeah, getting ahead. I think Ray Borg won. The thing that most impressed me here is I thought Ray Borg was about to lose the fight. I had it even going into the final round. I think most people had it even, or theoretically Formiga ahead. I didn't really see a lot of Ray Borg ahead.
No.
Although, if I'm not mistaken, didn't the judges have him win 30-27?
They.
Let me check MMA decisions.
I don't remember. I know there was one that was 30-27 that was weird.
No. That was the 20. No. The 30-27s were the Marias Ramos fight, which were
right. Yes,
absolute garbage cards.
Yes.
We'll get to that later.
Maybe.
But yeah. So I thought it was even. And apparently it was even going into the final round. And then Formiga did that thing where he finds a way to his back, and we've seen Formiga be just an unshakable vice in back control. He might not finish all the time, but he is excellent at holding positions. And I thought, well, that's it. Ray Borg got by a crafty veteran in a great fight. I would have been fine with that had it happened. Had Formiga kept held on to that for the duration of it. It would have been like, okay, that's awesome. Formiga now gets a title shot. He's been so close so many times he couldn't complete it. And Ray Borg, still a super young guy, looked great against a future title challenger, is going to be a title challenger himself, assuming he gets his weight all the way in order. And then he just said, nah, I'm not going to be like that, homie. And he's, despite the fact that Formiga had a body lock on, he spun, turned into it, got on top, threw some great elbows, ended up taking the round back and then getting the back at the very end and turning what looked to be a losing tide from him. Super impressed by the heart and toughness there. And I think I'm excited to see him again.
Yes. I wasn't confident that Borg was going to be what I expected him to be after he lost to Justin Scoggins last year, but he's 2-0 since that fight. He's looking better than ever. I think the move to Jackson Wink absolutely helps, like we talked about on Before the Battle yesterday night. And I mean, he goes up from here. I think the only option for him is Joseph Benavidez. Looking at the rankings, everybody else is booked. So that's a tough fight. That's a real tough fight, but I don't see anything else you can do. Johnson is
What's
booked,
the
and
fight
he's
you
not
like?
going to get the title shot. Benavidez, of course. Cejudo's booked. Formiga just beat Reyes is booked. Pettis booked. McCall, who knows? Ortiz, he's
Who
fought
did
and is booked.
Pettis just got booked? Who did Pettis get booked against?
Pettis, Cejudo.
Cejudo. That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then
Oh,
after
that's a
that, well,
fun
you got
division.
guys ranked below him and also guys that are booked as well. So the only option is literally Benavidez. There's no other option unless, I guess after that, well, McCall, but I can't count on McCall for anything.
I hope not, because Ian McCall needs to take a fight against somebody that
He can
is
beat.
just anybody who's not a super hard comeback fight.
I would like to see Ian McCall versus John Moraga.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I'm with you. I think you just make the Benavides fight, and that fight is just a title eliminator, and that's makes all the sense in the world. The only other option, if either Cejudo or Pettis get hurt and pull out, I think Ray Borg can go in there, fill in that role, and that'll be good. But yeah, Benavidez Borg title eliminator. Had Formiga won, I think Formiga just should have gotten the next shot. He should have just been waiting behind to face the winner of Reyes Johnson, aka Demetrius. But now that's not the case. So yeah, I think Ray Borg versus Joseph Benavidez for the guy to fight Demetrius Johnson next.
Yeah, and also Johnson recently said, I didn't look at the article, just headline, but going by the headline, it sounds like Dana White doesn't exactly want to see Johnson versus Benavidez 3, so don't be surprised to see this one booked. I mean, there's no way going by that Benavidez is going to get the winner. I don't think of Hayes versus Johnson. So, yeah, I think Borg gets booked. As far as the fight goes, I kind of jumped right to what's next for Borg, but I was impressed. I mean, it was dead even on the feet. I believe one round it was dead even, exactly dead even, and I'm sure the others were close as well. Again, the first two rounds really could have gone either way. They were super. This was a very well matched fight, just in hindsight, and even before it happened. I mean, we were looking at this as a very well matched fight. Formiga did not have really much of a grappling advantage, if we're being honest. I was a little worried when Formiga had taken the back and it looked like Borg was all but done. But of course, he was able to turn, which was crazy, and then that. The escape was even crazier. But yeah, ultimately a great performance for Borg, a big win, and one that as a young 23-year-old. This is even bigger just because he's still getting better. He'll be getting better for years, which is crazy to think because he's going to be a top 5 flyweight come Tuesday morning.
Yeah, but I would suspicion he's not going to be a flyweight too terribly much longer. He's already had weight issues and he's 23. He's still growing. I imagine he will go the way of Justin Scoggins and be moving up within the next couple of years. So
maybe the thing is though, it's
he's
tough
definitely not a
because
big flyweight in general, but
no.
I I think there's a real conversation to be had on whether there are enough people to functionally populate that division because people miss weight there more than anywhere else. So, but that's a whole different other talk.
Well, it's interesting just because I'm not so sure how well Borg does at bantamweight because he'll be a bit
Yeah, I
undersized.
don't think you do well.
So I like obviously kind of like Gastelum, he's a lot more promising at flyweight. So I would actually, even though I don't like weight cutting, I think Borg is a guy who we will see fight for a title probably in the future. But I think that's way more likely to happen at flyweight. So I would like to see him fulfill his potential and probably stay at 125. But if he feels that he's going to feel better at 135 and ultimately that he can't make the weight anymore, well, there's nothing I can do about it. And I'm going to agree with that. But yeah, I think the potential is there. It just comes down to the weight ultimately. It's like up and down as far as whether he makes or misses. So I guess we'll just have to see what happens. But I mean, I don't suspect he'll permanently move up for a little while, especially because he said he was going to, I believe, and now it looks like those plans are gone. So I'm not sure.
Yeah. But let's move on to the controversy of the evening. The big one, the thing that happened. My girl Betch Correia gets robbed with a draw against
What?
Mario.
No, no, not at all.
I don't think she got robbed either. I think a draw is a very defensible scorecard. If you also wanted to give it to Mario Renault, I would not have an issue with that either.
Yeah, I had it for Mario Renault, but a draw is a fine scorecard. I'm not going to complain about that. I had it 29-27 Renault. The first round going very narrowly to her. The second obviously was Correia's, and the third was obviously Renault's with the 10-8 as well. I was happy to see the Brazilian judges fairly easy going as far as the 10-8s. They gave out a couple 10-8s that I honestly didn't feel it were 10-8s, which was crazy. They gave a Canadian a 10-8 against a Brazilian, and I didn't really see the 10-8 there at all, but I think it happened as well a couple other times. But this was an okay fight. The first round was a little blah, and then it picked speed. It picked up speed a little bit later on. Renault, again, I mean, just her inactivity, I feel, is costing her a little bit in the first round. Well, yeah, in the first round too, but even in the second, she just couldn't pull the trigger. She definitely warmed up, and by the third, she was ready to go. But I guess it was a little too late. I still feel like she should have won the fight, so no complaints. But again, it was a fight that happened, but not one that really stood out to me.
I thought it was a really fun fight, honestly. um, people knock on Betch Correia, but the truth of the matter is she's a good fighter. Like, sorry, I know that she's like one of the least athletic people in the UFC, and that she is kind of brash and assertive, and so mixing somebody who's not like a good natural fighter with having a loud mouth is a woman is just like the worst combination of things for MMA fans. But like she does that Forrest Griffin thing, where she just maximizes what she's good at. And I thought for 10 rounds or for 10 minutes, she was mostly doing that. She's definitely not as good an athlete, but she was making it a grimier fight. She was putting a bunch of volume on. I thought her defense looked really good for the most part. And if you wanted to give 2 rounds to her, like 2 judges did, I think that's totally defensible. I in fact did give her 2 rounds. Did I? Did I give her 2 rounds? What did I do here? How did I
You
score
said a
this?
draw, so you must have
No, I did not. I did not score it a draw. I scored it for Mario.
29-27 Renault.
Um,
Yeah,
no, I am. Here's another thing. I'm
you do
super
10-7.
28-27. I'm super proud of this fact that I'm
Wait.
pretty confident over the past year. If you just look at like MMA decisions, I am by myself with scorecards more than any other person that MMA decisions takes answers from, because I'll turn in some weird ass ones. But like, I totally think 28-27 is a super defensible card.
So how does this work? Kohei gets a 10-8 where?
Correa doesn't get a 10-8. Correa wins 2 rounds, and then Renault gets a 10-7.
So that would be 28-27.
28-27. Yeah, that's
Damn.
I feel I genuinely, especially upon like reconsideration of it. At first I did it. I'll be honest. I did it in part because I think it's fun to be a little contrarian. But like,
Yeah, Mark Raimondi was on you for that.
Mark is I love Mark. He is one of, if not the best peer reporters in the game right now. But
Agreed.
he's definitely
Yeah.
a stickler for the rules, and I am certainly not that. And especially like I I have I don't adhere mostly to MMA scoring, the actual rules to it, because I think they're super flawed and dumb. So I'm not going to do something that I think is super dumb on Twitter or for my own edification, for me being able to tell you who I think want to fight. If I was actually cage side and I know that fighters have prepared to have rounds scored based on this. Okay, I understand the rules and how to score fights, but I'm not doing that. So fuck that. I'm not going to do that. And I think so. The idea that we use a 10-point must system, but we never take points is so dumb. Like, why even have 10 points just so it looks prettier? That's stupid. Like, I'm willing to take more points away based on how far you can delineate your dominance versus another round. And I think if you asked anybody, like if you just asked anybody in the media, any fan who watched that fight and said, throw out scoring, scoring doesn't exist, who won the fight? Everyone will tell you that Marion Renault won the fight. Yeah, theoretically, there's a draw because Renault lost 2 rounds very closely, but then won that last round big. But buck on that, son. Like, at the end of the day, it's stupid and it's not really a great example of how fighting works. But what
No, because
BJ
you.
Penn's famous statement to George St. Pierre: "I went
I
to the
mean,
bar, he went to the hospital." Like,
yeah.
Marion Renault won the fight. Say whatever you call it, whatever you want, pride rules or whatever. Like, she wins the fight under the 10-point scoring system. If you just accurately take away points, like her round 3 was at least 2 points better than either of the first 2 rounds that you give to Betchkohea. So I'm fine with a 10-7. I think 28-27 is the right scorecard. I'll die on that hill.
Well, under the real rules, it's probably not. But as Mark Ramondi would say, of course. But I mean, as I said on Twitter, Jed Meshew does what Jed Meshew wants. Is it right? No. But does he care? No.
Check these stats. Round 1, Betchkohea lands 15 strikes. Marion Renault's 20 strikes. Significant strikes. Round 2, Kohea 26 strikes. Marion Renault's 16 strikes. Arguably, Marion Renault wins the first. Betchkohea wins the second. Betchkohea also lands a takedown in both of those rounds. But those, just based on numbers, looking at that, those are competitive rounds. Like, one fighter is winning, but they're in it. Round 3, Betchkohea lands 2 strikes. Marion Renault lands 39 out of 46 for an 84% connection percentage, and that's significant strikes. She also landed 89 total strikes because of all her back on the time where she was throwing little hammer fists on the back.
Right. Yeah,
and that's not counting the fact that she had the back for like 2 full freaking minutes, that Betchkohea looked like she was dead at various points. That's an ass kicking, and I'll give it a 10-7 all damn day.
Well, that's a 10-8 under the real rules right now, and I mean,
it's not. Let me look at the real rules, because 10-7 is just like, it's like severe 10-8 or whatever. I don't remember.
10-7 is dominance, damage, and duration. You need all 3.
Yeah, so she almost knocked her out. She dominance 39 strikes versus 2, and the entire round was her beating the shit out of Betchkohea. I'm super down for a 10-7.
I don't know. It's a tough argument kind of on both sides because, well, you got all 3, so I mean, you technically can score that fight a 10-7 or score that round a 10-7, as far as I know. But I don't know. We're already so just kind of learning. It's so weird but we're kind of learning to score 10-8 right now. No one wants to throw out a 10-7 because it seems ridiculous, as far as legitimate scoring goes. But yeah, I mean, if you want to,
I'm ahead of the curve. I'm ahead of the curve. I know how to score 10-8s.
Yes,
that dude won that round way more than the other dude won the other round.
If we're going to talk about scoring, let's do it real quick, but let's do it. The 10-point must system isn't that bad. If we're going to be honest, is it ideal? Maybe not, but is it bad? No, it's fine. But we need 10-7s, 10-8s, 10-9s, legitimately.
We need 10-6s. We need 10-5s. Like,
10-5s, no. That's a bit too far. But we need to differentiate between a clear but not dominant round, a very close round, and a dominant round. You need a 10-7 for what is a today 10-8. You need a 10-8 for, well, a very clear round, and 10-9 for a 10-9. Okay, for ideal scoring, Ray Borg versus Jesse Fournier, your round 3 should be a 10-8. And round 1 and 2 should be 10-9s. And then if Borg had dominated it and
Oh wait,
today gone to 10-8.
no, that's
Yes.
close. It's close because
Yes.
no, round three is when Formiga had back control for like 2 minutes, and then at the end Borg turned it around. So it's very
But
close.
that
It's a
was a
closer
very
fight.
that was a quite the more clear round for Borg than the first two were for Formiga or for Borg.
I genuinely don't. I think it is slightly more. So here's the thing. Under my scoring, if I would be down to give that a 10-8 because I would also be like I would award 10-6s and shit. So I'm fine with that being a 10-8 because
So
I
basically, your opinion is hard to trust.
no, my opinion's great. I think scoring is very simple. You don't score the first round at live, and then after the second round is completed, you retroactively score the first round, and you score every round in relation to other rounds. So after the first round of pick a fight on this card, I don't give a shit. Pick one.
Um, let's just see. Yaya and Soto.
Yaya Soto. Okay, so Soto Yaya. I don't remember what happened that first round. It was a close fight. So yeah, because at the end, Soto puts the other 10-8. So yeah, the first round of Yaya Soto happens, then the second round happens. I'm like, okay, that fight is even going into round three. Both guys won. There wasn't a neither round was a clearer or more dominant in any discernible way. That's fine. Round three, okay, that's a 10-8 because Soto clearly won that round significantly more than the other two rounds are won. I would score rounds in relation to other rounds.
I do like your scoring system. I honestly like it, but
Let's go
it
through it.
just feels like it could be too inconsistent, and people wouldn't know how to work it. Like, because it's not like a distinct rule. It's like not on pen on paper. Okay, this is how you score a round, and I think that would mess a lot of people up. But ultimately, that's probably how rounds should be scored.
I think you can write it so it's easier to like. Okay, in general, you know what a 10 round mostly looks like, but on the off chance you score a round and it round one and it is a 10 round, it's a 10-9 looking round, and then round two comes out and they Woodley Wonder Boy it and they just stare at each other and you don't feel like can't throw out a 10-10 because everybody is super averse to that or whatever. So instead of having a half point, I think half point systems are stupid because like why have a half point when we have 10 full points? Just use all the points that we have. So like then if that happens, you'd be like, okay, well retroactively I have to score round one a 10-8 and round two a 10-9 for whoever. And now I've set my baseline. I have these two rounds as a baseline. So round three, if it's more dominant than round one, that's a 10-7. If it's the level of these other two, it's whatever level it's commiserate at. I think that's simple. But we've spent way too much time talking about this, especially because we are wordy bastards, is what we are. We talk all the time. um, but I just thought that fight was pretty fun, honestly, and I did kind of want to mention it. But the
Well, I mean,
last
we
card of the
spent
minute,
5 minutes talking about the fight and 15 talking about
well,
scoring.
I
Fine,
mean,
but
but I thought what the fight brought about was fun,
yes,
because I think
let's
Marion
move on.
Renault won the fight. But
Yes.
uh, the last fight on the main card, everybody damn near got this one wrong, except for the books. A lot of money came in late on Alex Oliveira, pushed him to a much smaller underdog, and Alex Oliveira gets the win, submitting Tim Means in the second round. He looked really good. What do you think, Nick?
I was impressed. I mean, how can you not be as a guy who went in there thinking Tim Means was going to stop him? You can't not be impressed. Alex Oliveira has turned himself into, from a physical specimen who was able to grind out his opponents with a bit of knockout power to a legit fighter. He has great takedowns. He's very strong, even at welterweight, and he can still muscle his way to wins. But he does have legit talent. He's good on the ground. He has the power. He's fairly well rounded. Is he a top guy? No, far from it. But I mean, Tim Means, we're talking about this guy as a top 15 guy, and Alex Oliveira, fairly convincingly beat Tim Means even when, but like before the finish. I mean, I was confident Oliveira won the first round, I believe, if I recall correctly. And then, of course, the second you got the tap. Tim Means really didn't have much for Oliveira on the ground. I mean, he actually did fairly well getting back to his feet, but I mean, Oliveira landed like 5 takedowns in the fight, maybe more.
Yeah, he
Let's
just
see here.
ragdolled him a bunch.
Exactly. So, I mean, eventually Oliveira was going to get him down and keep him down, and that's essentially what happened. And soon enough, he got the submission win. So yeah, impressive stuff. Is going to be interesting to see where the Brazilian cowboy goes from here. I'm happy he's back at welterweight where he should be. There's no way that guy should be fighting at lightweight. So hopefully he never tries that cut again. But yeah, a big win, and it's kind of nice that we got some clarification, or not some clarification, but just some closure on this fight because obviously the first one was ended in a bit of controversy.
Yeah, I don't care anymore. I started wanting to talk about this, but something came up that made me change my mind in general. The only thing I want to say about this is I hope Tim Means fight Donald Cerrone next because that fight is baller. But
Yeah.
other than that, I don't know if you're paying attention to this, but it's important we discuss this because Vitor Belfort is changing MMA for good and for always.
He
At the
wants
close,
the League of Legends.
the Legends division, but the ideas behind it are absolutely sensational. He has a whole plan for it, and he's got it. He's got it prepared and ready to go. And I damn sure hope they do it because I'm so in. Uh, Basic gist of it is there are three weight classes: light, medium, and heavy. That's it. Um, there are it's only 3 minute rounds instead of five. There are no elbows or knees. And ground time is only 30 seconds long, and there's an extra 30 seconds between rounds since they're old, so they get 90 seconds to rest. Um, I am so in on this idea. I can't explain it. Like this is amazing.
It's a fun idea. It really is, but I guess it would be interesting to see who really is in as far as the fighters go. I mean,
They don't
I don't
damn
know.
do it. Are you kidding?
Say that again.
They'd all do it. Come on, man.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think a healthy sum of people would do it, and I am so for it. This would just be amazing. Like,
Well,
uh,
honestly, I mean, it's better than Tito Ortiz going to Bellator and winning a few fights and fighting under regular rules and then getting choked out by Lee McGee. I mean, no one really wants to see that. I mean, I like this Legends League that he's proposing. We're going to avoid the Tito Ortiz versus Lee McGee style fights that really don't need to happen. Honestly,
exactly. You get the Tito trail fights. Like, I love Bellator. I know it's a bit gauche or whatever to talk about it, but like, I think Bellator is awesome. I'm
yeah,
fine. I'm fine watching some weird ass fights, and I don't feel uncomfortable like having show. It's what we talked about earlier. Shogun Rua fighting any real top light heavyweight kind of makes me feel uncomfortable at this point, considering where
exactly,
he's at. But
exactly.
Shogun Rua fighting Tito Ortiz is dope. Like,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. I agree. Honestly, I mean, if they are in and medically cleared to compete, why not? Why not? I mean,
Well, see, that's a low bar. Medically cleared to compete. Dada 5000 and Kimbo were medically cleared to compete, and Kimbo had a heart condition that like
that was
ended
also
up.
in Texas. That was
Yeah,
also in Texas.
it doesn't really matter in Texas or anywhere. Like commissions or commissions, fights will get made. I
As
hold very
long
low
as
standards
they're
on medically cleared.
legitimately healthy enough to compete, I'm in. If they're not, well, that's another story.
Yeah,
Because I don't want anybody dying inside the octagon. That wouldn't be good.
it's not optimal, certainly.
No.
Well, we should probably wrap it up pretty soon here, but
Pretty
before
soon.
we,
Let's go through these prelims
I was going to
fast.
say,
Let's
yeah.
pick out a few ones because I don't want to talk about Maurice Ramos at all.
Who'd you have winning? I just want to know who you thought won the fight.
I had Maurice, but I didn't pay that much attention if I'm gonna be honest.
That's fine. I had
Um,
Ramos winning, but it's whatever.
yeah, for sure. Let's talk Francisco Trinaldo, Kevin Lee. This was an interesting one. Trinaldo rocked him a couple times in the first round. One more bad than the other, but he definitely had Kevin Lee hurt. It looked like Kevin Lee was starting to slow down, but in goes Kevin Lee, the Motown phenom in the second round. He cracks Trinaldo hard with a leg kick, which was kind of interesting. Kevin Lee certainly not known for his knockouts, even though he does have a few under his belt. Um, and then I barely remember. I believe he went for he got the takedown, and from there, just got into position and got the rear naked choke, I believe. But yeah, impressive stuff from Kevin Lee. Um, Obviously, it wasn't a 100% fluid performance. He did get rocked, and that isn't exactly ideal. But hey, I mean, Francisco Trinaldo was on a 7-fight winning streak. He's number 11 in the division. He seemed to be getting better with age, and Kevin Lee goes out there and stops him. Big win, and we probably will see Kevin Lee in the rankings come Tuesday morning.
Oh, he's definitely going to be in the rankings now. And he's one of the best prospects. I mean, we've got right now. I guess if we're calling him a prospect, because he still is. He's still 24. So still super young. A very good athlete. He's got that. He's got excellent wrestling. And he has a lot of other sort of ancillary things that make him an interesting prospect going forward. Uh, you know, he talks a lot, which is a good and bad thing, double-edged sword there, but he might be able to talk himself into some fun fights. His whole
Not the Khabib one,
that
but
that's the only thing. Like, you sort of got to know your role, in my opinion, and like it's fun to
he should
talk.
have stuck to the Ally Quinta angle. He's been angling for that rematch a
That's
lot.
that's fine. Like, aside from the fact that Khabib, I genuinely bet Khabib doesn't have any idea who Kevin Lee is. Um,
No.
and his whatever his line, your fans want it, my fans want it. No, they don't. Khabib's fans probably don't know who you are, and I don't know that Kevin Lee has fans. Um, it's just I think he's a great fighter and a great talent, and will do big things in this division. But like, aside from the fact that Khabib would just mop him up in the fiercest of ways, like, that's an unrealistic fight. And I love that he had a name, because that's one of my biggest things. I want
But
fighters
it's
to call
just
people out. But like,
it's better than nothing, but it certainly isn't that much better if we're being honest.
I don't. It's almost not better than nothing. It's like calling out Santa Claus or something. Like, okay, that's not gonna happen. If he got out there and called out Conor McGregor, you're running from me. Like, no, that's just not realistic.
Yeah.
So like,
I
you got to
mean, you
do.
have to stick to realistic options, and that isn't one. At least he didn't say, whoever the UFC wants to give me, I'm good. I'm a company guy. Let's go. Come on,
Yeah,
Kevin Lee, fans. I mean, at
shoot
least
your
he didn't do
shot, I
that.
guess. But
At
like,
least he didn't do that. But I mean, just looking at the rankings, he should have called out. All right, let's see. I don't know. I like Quinta. That still stands out to me.
it's
I
a
haven't done
fine
it. I
fight.
mean,
It's
there.
he. Ala Quinta's a fine one to call out, because it shows like some upper mobility. I think they should just match him up with Sergio Moraes. Moraes is on like a, what, 6 or 7 fight win
Marias
streak.
is welterweight, and Lee is not.
Oh, fuck it, do it anyway. Is he a welterweight? Moraes is a welterweight? Oh yeah, he is, because Davi Ramos is a lightweight who bumped up. That's right.
Yes.
Um,
I
oh,
honestly don't
man.
know if Lee fights a ranked guy next, which is kind of crazy, but
There's
I
nobody big to
feel
fight.
I feel like Dustin Poirier and up is too big of a step up, and then Gilbert
Tell you
Melendez is
what,
gone. Evan Dunham's not a good fight.
nah,
Ali
give him
Quince is
Chiesa.
booked.
Give him Chiesa.
Yeah,
That's
Chiesa,
fine.
huh?
That's fine.
I don't
Give him the
know.
fight. That's a winnable fight for him, but it's also a very losable fight for him. So, I actually don't hate that fight. Sure, do that.
I'm not loving it because I feel like that's too big of a step up, but
I mean, it's only going to be like 4 steps up the rankings when he comes in at 12 or whatever.
maybe. Just looking at the lightweight division. I mean, there's so many options. It's crazy, but I
It's
mean, even
nothing
like
really insane.
Joe Duffy, if he beats Reza Madadi, I would watch that. Paul Felder, that's an interesting option. Um, I don't know. It's tough. Maybe the winner of
I,
Rashid Magomedov and Bobby Green. Yeah, I mean there's a lot of options, right? So
I like
anything
Chiesa.
works.
I actually, as I look at this, I like Chiesa. I think the Chiesa fight's good. Is Evan Dunham booked? I don't hate that.
Evan Dunham, I don't think he is.
We could deal with that too.
Yeah,
But I like the Chiesa fight. I think that's what I would do if I was Mick Maynard.
all
Anything
right.
else from the undercard that kind of jumped out at you that you want to talk about? Do you want
Well,
to
I
go
think
down and talk about Moraes and
I
Davos?
just closed the card. Well, I think we got to talk about Joe Soto getting the nod over Hani Yaya. That was a that was a bloody one. That was a very bloody one.
Yeah, that was my pick for Friday night. Just because of the sort of drama and stakes surrounding it. And real talk, I was very adamant about this on Twitter, and I even still sort of think that I'm correct in it. That I thought that fight should have been stopped right when the cut happened. I know the cut was in a not super bad place because it was like right here on the other, I guess, here, so it wasn't bleeding directly into the eye. But just the sheer amount of blood that was coming out of that, like
Yeah.
he poured a ton of it immediately. Like I'm not a doctor, but I would venture to say he lost a full pint of blood, which can't be healthy. And it did sort of detract from the fight a little bit. It made it it added a sense of drama to it, but it also made it slippery and it looked, I don't know. I think that it would have been fine to be like, okay, let's look, guys, it was a headbutt. We'll just call it a no contest here. My big fear when they let the fight go on was that, well, right now it's not going to get stopped because they can credibly let it go on. But if this fight goes on for another like 5 minutes and then ultimately they have to stop it, then they're just going to go to the judges' scorecards because once you get over halfway done with the fight or whatever, once you go finish 2 rounds, they'll just go to the scorecards. It's like, well, that seems busted. But he ended up gutting it out and making it through, and had that sensational third round. So good for Joe Soto. He should go drink some Pedialyte or whatever because he is got to be tired because he lost half of his blood.
Probably should just go, order a glass of blood if that's a thing and to, regain that. But I don't think that's a thing.
I don't believe it is.
I mean, in Fortaleza, who knows?
Yes, who knows?
I've never been there. I can't say for sure, but you never
I'm
know.
gonna say that it's not. But
Well, Diego Sanchez, I see his Instagram posts all the time, and he's drinking blood, or so he says. So you gotta trust the what's his name now? The I don't know something uh
it's like
uh
chosen
oh I
one
don't
or something.
know that's Tyron Woodley.
No, not Time Woods is a chosen one, not a
Lionheart or
chosen
something.
lion. Yeah, Lionheart. I think you are right. I think it's Lionheart. Um,
Yeah, we'll go with Lionheart anyways. But yes, Lionheart. But yeah, okay. Anyways, yeah, Joe Soto looked great. Ronnie Haniaya had a pretty good first round, if I remember correctly. It was rather close, but I mean,
he won the first round.
I think he got the nod in the first one, and the second was a really back and forth one. But one I gave it to Soto pretty close, and the third was obviously the 10-8 for Soto, and just the really really crazy dominant round for Joe Soto. Haniaya gassed hard, man.
So it's late, and that's the only reason that you're thinking that because you must be misremembering. Because while Yaya was competitive early in the second, he gassed super hard, and at the end of the second round, it looked like Joe Soto might have been able to finish him. He was just beasting on him at the end there.
Did Soto not get a 10-8 in third,
He did get a
or
10 in the third, but I was talking about in the second round where you said it was a close round.
oh,
That
okay.
round was very clearly a Joe Soto round.
Okay, well, I remember it being clear enough, but I do remember Yaya getting a bit of offense. But yeah, now that you say he was tired, yeah, it's kind of coming back. We've seen what like 8 fights since then.
Well, oh
I
yeah,
forget. I don't even know who
it's also late.
the co-main.
It's late.
Yeah. But yeah, Joe Soto beating number 14 guy after a rough start to his UFC career. Losses to Dillashaw, Anthony Burchak, and Tanaka, which should have been a win, and he's won 3 in a row since. All rather impressive performances. A couple good submissions, and now this should have been Fight Night, and he'll probably get a bonus check behind the scenes. So good stuff from Joe Soto. He always comes to fight, and maybe he'll be ranked. I mean, he'll be
He'll
close.
probably get in. He'll probably get in
And
at the edges of it.
he'll be on the rise, so to speak. And he's still young, I believe. I don't think he's even hit 30. So, is he extremely young or is he late
Is he
20s?
what?
Is he extremely young? Somewhere
No, I don't think he's extremely young,
he's
but he's
29. Yeah.
29.
So yeah. So yeah, he still has time. So it's gonna be interesting to see where he goes. Let's just talk real quick about the last 3 ones.
I do want to
Prazeres
say one
and
last thing about the Soto thing.
yeah.
Just real quick. And basically it's the last thing I have much to say about the rest of the card. But Joe Soto, I think he did a thing that kind of bothers me, and I see it a lot with fighters these days. And just in general historically. Fighters, when they hurt somebody, they rarely attack the body. It's a thing that I really, really like about Max Holloway. When he rocks somebody, he is concentrated with the body attack, and you'll see it from a lot of really elite level fighters. Um, if they even, if they rock somebody with a good clean headshot, uh, most fighters just sort of go into headhunting mode. But the really top tier fighters attack the body, mix their strikes really well, and take that opportunity from a concussed or groggy fighter to put in some really damaging shots. And I thought Joe Soto should have done that here. At the end of the second round, when they're in that sort of stacked up turtle position, and Hanayaya is just dead. Joe Soto keeps trying to punch him in the face, and a lot of times that works, but like if he had just done the George St. Pierre, Matt Serra, just like stand, pressure on the back, and knee to the ribs, like three of those, especially against the guy who's already super tired, that might just body him up. Like, I, and in that third round, he put together a 10-8 round. He was still beating the hell out of him, but he kept trying to hunt the head. And there were a lot of times in the middle of scrambles where he could have just been like, okay, I'm just going to elbow your ribs a lot right here, just down as hard as I can. And I would like to see fighters do that more. I think if Joe Soto had done that, he likely could have stopped Hanayaya.
Alrighty, moving on real quick. Michel Prazeres just bullying Josh Berkman into a submission victory. This was super impressive. Michel Prazeres, I don't think I've ever picked him in a UFC fight. I would have to look his record, but I believe ever since I
You
knew
picked him
he,
in this one.
yeah, up until tonight, I think this might have been the first time. Just looking back, I'm not totally sure on the Lazaro fight back in November 2015, but I picked Cottrell against him, which was kind of weird. I picked Burns for sure, and then I don't before that, Kevin Lee. I think I don't even know, but anyways, I don't. I'm definitely have not been high on Prazeres, but man, he's slowly but surely, maybe quickly now, changing my opinion on him because this guy. Well, he certainly came to fight Josh Berkman. Yeah, he's been finished a couple times fairly recently, but he's still a tough guy. And Michel Prazeres is not exactly a finisher. He has 57% of his wins with 21 wins by decision, and he had not finished a fight since 2012. That is insane. And I mean, it's Josh Berkman. So I did not see this one being a finish, first off. So super impressive stuff from Prazeres. I'm not going to say I'm on the Michel Prazeres train, but I really believe this guy deserves to step up in competition. So it will be interesting to see where he goes from here. But he absolutely just murked Josh Berkman. He hurt him badly on the feet. He went out guns a-blazing, which was really crazy to see. But it's interesting because if Prazeres did not get the submission after he calmed down a little bit, he would have been gassed. I mean, you look at his build, you just know he would not have any cardio left. So it's probably lucky he got that tap when he did.
Yeah, I'm not gonna call it lucky, because he just beat the shit out of Josh Berkman, but I think I'd like to see him against some better competition. I do think he has some gas tank issues because of his build, but great performance, looked super good, and kind of sad that we won't see Josh Berkman in the UFC again, but he is apparently not retiring. Intends to fight one more time in his hometown at least, and then wants to start up an MMA promotion in Utah. So and do that thing. So good luck to you doing that, Josh Berkman. I'm sorry your UFC career is so terribly bad. His record in the UFC is extremely awful for his last 10 fights in there or whatever. But yeah, that's all I got on this one. I'll just take the lead on Kennedy, Hani Jason, so we can wrap this up real quick. I picked Jeremy Kennedy. I thought it'd look a lot like it ended up looking. I really like him a lot. I don't think he's some super prospect, but he is young. He is talented. He's scrappy. He's not like the greatest athlete, but he's very smart in what he's doing and in the cage. And it played out like that. He basically outthought Hani Jason, and that was good for him. So
Yeah,
I'm
to me, he's really Chas Kelly-esque.
yes, that's fair. Only younger and probably with a little bit higher of a ceiling.
Yeah,
But
yeah, for
but
sure.
yeah. But no, like he's not a world beater. He'll get some losses in the UFC probably in the nearest future, but he has a solid game, and he is very scrappy and pretty tough, and I like that in him, and I'm happy to see him fight somebody next. I don't even know who I'd put him against, but
No, I have no idea as far as the next matchup. I agree. I don't really care to speak much of this. It was one of the more lackluster fights with the card, and that's not really bad to say just because the card overall was a fun one. But Kennedy gets the win. Nothing super impressive, but beating Honey Jason is something. Jason, he's notable enough, and for a young guy who just made his UFC debut late last year, not too bad at all. Obviously. So, I mean, overall impressive stuff. He did what he had to do. He did get rocked a little bit on the feet, or it seemed like that. So, obviously, got to touch up that defense, striking defense. But I'm sure he will. And ultimately, that's not his game anyway. So, he got the takedowns and ultimately got the win. So, nice stuff. In his debut, Paulo Borrachinha just murked Gareth McClellan. This was another really fantastic performance. Obviously different, but it reminded me of Prezeris Berkman, just the dominance level, and McClellan never really got going. He was kind of just that, walking punching bag, and Borrachinha looked phenomenal.
yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. I don't want to cast aspersions. He looked incredibly bricked up, and he came in on short notice, so something to be mindful of. But I'm not going to. I think he likely is he's a good fighter. We've seen it before. He's been improving a lot. He didn't look to do anything other than beat that ass, and he came out and did that. Gareth McClellan is, I don't want to be an asshole, but he's really not a UFC caliber fighter, and we've now had that pretty conclusively proven to us. I would be surprised if he stayed around.
Yeah, I agree. Just kind of to say what you said, I agree. Borrachino looked good. Put his combinations together well. He definitely did look ripped out of his mind, so that's something to look out for, perhaps. But I would like to see him against. Obviously not like a ranked guy or anything even close to that. You gotta build him up like a normal fighter, but I think this guy has a bit of potential. I'm interested to see where he goes from here. Obviously, a win. It's tough to say. He looks amazing against a non-UFC caliber guy, essentially, and then all of a sudden I'm high on him, and then he's going to lose his next fight, and there goes that. But
Well, he's historically had the same problems that we talked about with Prazeres, and that he, just looking at his build, he and the way he fights, he has had gas problems historically, and that is likely
yeah.
something that will continue. So, you know,
But the thing is, Prazeres isn't known as a finisher, and I mean, Borrachinha. I mean, he's still early in his pro career, but he looks to be quite the killer as far as I'm concerned. So,
he is, and
um,
that's the thing is he's at his best on the ground too. So
that's interesting. So he
yeah,
must be
like
well rounded. Like I mean, I'm
he's
not familiar with him, so I didn't know that. But
no, he's I think he's got like some level of grappling credentials. I can't recall off the top of my head because it's almost 4 o'clock. I think he's got like a ADCC couple of wins at like the purple level or something like that. Like not like a real top shelf guy, but like a good he's a good grappler, and a lot of his early career or a lot of his early fights he exposes that more, and then lately he's developed good power and has been using it.
yeah, alrighty. That does it for us. UFC Fight Night 106 recap in the books. I was actually for yesterday's before the battle calling this UFC Fight Night 106, but I don't really care because it's just a number, and I don't care. So sorry, but I don't care. So that does it for us. Jed, let everybody know. I'm sure they're already following you and know where they can find you. But I mean, if the off chance we got some new viewers that have never listened to us talk some fights, let the people know where they can check you out on social media, your podcast, your writing, and everything else you got going on.
If you don't know where I am by now, get your game up. But my Twitter is at JedKMeshew. It's JedKMeshew. You can check that out at whenever, and that's where you can find all my stuff. My writing is found every single day at MMAfighting.com. I'm out there giving the scoops, telling you all about Floyd Mayweather coming out of retirement and things like that, like the hero that I am. So check me out there. It was fun, Nick. I enjoyed it, man.
Yes, sir. The good old morning report. Don't miss it. All right. You guys can check me out on the Twitter at NickUFC. Always down to chat about mixed martial arts and anything else you would like to discuss. But of course, as I usually say, the usual disclaimer: my knowledge on non-MMA topics not too hot, so you can test that. You can probably will be disappointed, but maybe I can pull something out of the hat and surprise you. And maybe I'll just know something that you really didn't think I know. So hit me up there on the Twitter at the UFC. You can find my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. I will probably have an interview piece out with Zach Makovsky. I kind of wanted to have that out sooner, but I don't. So hopefully I'll have that. Maybe I'll write that. Maybe I won't. So just check out my Twitter and I'll let you guys know there, basically. I interviewed Valentina Shevchenko earlier today, so she'll be one of our guests on episode 102 of the MMA Circus, my other podcast, next week. So check that out. I also interviewed Mercenary Combat League President Andrei Pavlich. You don't know the name or the name of his organization. It's a brand new organization based out of Winnipeg. Super stoked to have live MMA here in Winnipeg coming later
Related
this
to
year.
Mark Pavlich?
No. But different spelling, but MMA makes sense. We haven't had pro MMA here in the PEG since September 2014, so I'm stoked to have a Winnipeg-based organization coming up. So got to talk to him today all about that, so he'll also be on the podcast next week as well. My writing at Bloody Elbow, I think that is it. Thank you guys for listening. There might be guys still listening, so we appreciate it, especially this late. Enjoy having to go ahead 1 hour in 10 minutes or so.
Shit. I didn't even realize that was the case.
Well, you said 4 a.m., so I assumed because
My computer already apparently jumped over. I didn't even
that's
realize
right.
that.
That's right. Yeah, it's actually only just coming up to 3 a.m., so
Yep.
you can't be
No,
that
it's
tired.
not. It's actually 4 a.m. So
If we're being technical,
not technical, just true. It's 4 a.m. now. Well,
Well,
3:50.
well, here it's 1:50, but in 10 minutes, all right, that's enough. All right. At Nick UFC on the Twitter, at Jed K. Meshew, and thank you guys for listening. Good night, and we'll be back next week for Before the Battle.
Peace.